I'm joined today with one of my friends, Ed Orns. He is a social media expert.
Social media marketing is your digital window, store window, to see what is actually inside your product, your service, your actual storefront.
There's certain businesses, they'll go in and they'll delete some of their posts out. I've never done that. I think that it is a catalog of who we are, what we've done to show people like we've grown, and this is where we're heading towards. When it came to posts, that you needed to be consistent, but consistently the same time every day.
That is true. And so that, some maybe it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we're going to post their content. What's good is getting in a rhythm with each customer and complements what they're doing, but also contrast so it'll stand out even more. And then you kind of evaluate, hey, what was the best time?
Welcome to the Every Turn Podcast, a place for entrepreneurs to tell their stories, share some of their industry knowledge and secrets, explore their challenges, and yes, of course, their successes found within it all. I'm your host, Chad Chase, and I look forward to sharing this week's episode with all of you, so let's dive right in. Hello, everybody. I am Chad, and you are watching the Every Turn Podcast, or listening to the Every Turn Podcast, depending on what provider you are using. You could either be watching this episode or you could be listening to it on Apple Podcasts. What are the other ones? Spotify.
Oh yeah, Spotify.
Otherwise, you're watching us on YouTube. Anyways, I'm joined today with one of my friends, Ed Orns. He is a social media expert. Social media marketing expert.
There we go.
Really? Yeah. He doesn't post to Facebook very often personally.
Yeah.
Is it your wife that does all the...
Pretty much, yes.
Keeps you on.
That was the goal originally. Yes.
To give you a little bit of background, Ed and I met each other, 2012? No,
it's been 12 years.
Oh, yeah, 12 years. So it had been 2013, I believe. We worked at Facebook in a program helping small to medium-sized businesses understand the platform at that time and how that all worked. So Ed really kind of harnessed the skill set that he had and to decide to make a career out of it beyond Facebook.
Yes, indeed. It's been a journey.
So tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do?
So it'll be 4 years in October when I started, and it became a necessity out of, I was burned out in social media actually, and marketing. I needed a break, worked for an agency that was focused 100% on auto dealers around the country. And I just was at a point of, I need a break. So I was looking for anything else but social media. And when I left to pursue another position that was outside of that, I had a lot of clients that said, hey, we were only at this agency or even a previous agency because of you. Would you consider still at least consulting for us? And so that's what started it all. I remember sitting with you, Chad, and I was actually doing some small things for Chad, one of his businesses at the time, and he helped walk me through it. And
we were setting up your LLC at that time.
Yes. And so very easy process, but nerve-wracking too, because I honestly, as far as entrepreneurial spirit goes, where Chad is very high in that category, I like to play it safe. And so I was like, there is no way that I could do this, that I wanted to do it. So I was more afraid. More afraid of taking the first steps, which the LLC was, than the actual application.
And I remember telling you something, and it's an important lesson, I think, for all of the new or aspiring entrepreneurs that are watching or listening. You can file for your own LLC pretty easy, depending on what state you're in. It's going to be through either your Secretary of State's office, which is the majority of states in the country. But in Arizona, we have a corporation commission that you file with. The Secretary of State's office here, you can do entity name reservations and things like that. So it's something to look at if you're just kind of dipping your toes in and you want to get your name locked in. then the entity name reservation can be a very effective way to do that. The one thing that I told you though, because this happens all the time, as soon as you register with whichever administrative department it is within the government that you live, you will start getting junk mail from places that make it seem very official that you need to join a registry. You need to buy this very specific stamp or seal, all these things. Did that happen?
It did happen.
And
yes.
I told you, don't sign up for any of that. And I remember you messaging me a little bit later. You're like, hey, I just got this and I really think I need to get it. I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah, no, you don't need it. Yeah, exactly. Good advice.
And you didn't need any of that stuff.
No.
And it's always like $100 or something ridiculous for some rubber stamp you could order off of Vistaprint or one of those other companies for probably $20.
Exactly.
So that's one thing that I'll continue to try to tell people when they go to register their LLC is don't worry about the junk mail unless it has the official letterhead of the state that you are residing in or you're registering in. Ignore it. It's junk.
Agreed.
And how many people do you have working for you right now? Is it just yourself? Do you have anyone else?
Pretty much it's myself. As needed, one or two other people will help as needed. I have, this has been I call it a side gig that has, like I said, in October, it'll be 4 years. I never intended to go this way, but it's come in handy because of the fact of, whether recent layoffs or whatever the case, I have something to continue and contribute. It has also been surprising to me the amount of people that have come my way as a result of working in social media marketing over the years that reach out. And sometimes it's hey, I have a friend who's running for office. Would you help them? Or, hey, here's an auto dealer. Would you help them? Or HVAC or what, e-commerce. And with very few exceptions that I've been able to apply the same formula, things that I've learned that we learned years ago. So as far as like the actual application with social media marketing, that hasn't been a part of the entrepreneurial progress. Still accepting the fact like, okay, this is more than just a casual one-off, but something consistent, and being able to, no matter what new customer may come along, be able to replicate what I've done, look for new things, not get, satisfied with where I am, always looking to push the envelope here where needed.
Yeah. And it's a lot different than some of our other guests or small business owners that I've met with, because unlike them, the work that you do has always been work. A lot of times we see people with like, oh, it started out as a hobby. Well, let me tell you, if you turn your hobby into a business, it's no longer a hobby. Right. It is work, and you have to show up every day and you have to be responsible. It's hard. It really is, because that hobby that you chose when you were going to do it and when you were not going to do it isn't that way anymore. You have to show up when the customer is willing and ready to pay you to do that work.
Agreed. And even, being willing to change as the market changes, or, primarily my background in social media marketing was the marketing aspect as far as running ads and so forth. And I know we'll get to that, but recently people or businesses are looking for, hey, can you help with my social media management? Can you help me make sure my pages are set up? Primarily with Facebook, Instagram, but it's there's Nextdoor, there's Twitter, there's or X, YouTube is always prevalent, TikTok to a point, and so there's always that, and to your point, that's what I face now. I never planned, so to speak, to go into where, oh, now I'm providing content,
right,
as well. Like I never, we kind of alluded to it earlier. This was a thing for my wife to do. I came to Facebook to work with you. I was finishing my business bachelor degree.
Yep.
And so I needed to do an internship. That's how it started. Never intended to do anything with social media, but here I am. But it's that willingness to change and be available, to your point.
Yeah. And, I remember something when we worked at Facebook, because we really focused on the ad side of things. And with that, we definitely had a piece where we had to coach individuals on frequency of posting. Because back then, and don't get me wrong, the algorithm has changed slightly here and there because their data scientists are constantly updating it. When they realize that humans are more focused or interested in short clips versus long clips versus photos versus words, it all plays into how they're going to deliver content to you as an end user. And so as a business owner, you have to be extremely aware of what the algorithm is desiring at that time. So back then, it really didn't have, I think there were no videos. It was all photos. So we were photo based. And then ad copy was the second piece to that. And so we always told them when it came to posts, not advertising, that you needed to be consistent. It needed to be twice a day, but consistently the same time every day. And back then they also didn't have timed or scheduled posts.
Right.
So you had to be up at 6 a.m. to make your post if you wanted it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I think some of those things ring true today still. Consistency, posting, the content has changed a bit.
That is true. And so that's something that I do with each client, and it may differ. Some maybe it's going to be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we're going to post their content. Some it may be 4 times a week, and that doesn't exclude them from posting something else. What's good is getting in a rhythm with each customer and so it complements what they're doing, but also contrasts, so it'll stand out even more.
Yeah.
So those are all things like you start to get a feel for. So you go in with a formula, like you said, like we've learned, and then you kind of evaluate, hey, what was the best time? When do people, I met with a client on Friday, come to find out he gets the most engagement on Friday, but it's all day. The rest of the week,
dead.
And so it was like, hey, if we want to make a major announcement, maybe we're going to do it on Fridays now. And it's that always evolving.
Yeah, always evolving strategy.
Yeah.
My next question is, did you write a business plan or do a feasibility study before you started your business?
I had a business plan, not necessarily for social media. Part of my getting my bachelor's degree and then going on to get my master's degree, which was focus in project management, was the ability to be able to look at any potential business, and no matter the size, whether it was a large worldwide corporation to starting my own business, and what would I do, and building a business plan. And so the basics, what do I need? What kind of capital do I need? What kind of people do I need? What physical resources do I need? Do I need to rent an office?
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing. And so as far as the feasibility, I thought this would be a short-term 6-month thing. To be honest, I was more, what I have really enjoyed the past 12 years is moving in this space of strategy, being strategic, being able to give feedback, be able to look at somebody the way their content is, or look at their website. As I've expanded into all different realms of digital marketing, and making sure you have a unified message.
Mm-hmm.
But coming back to that, as far as the feasibility, I did not. And still I marvel, 4 years later, at how things have grown.
Yeah.
But just for the fact, I think the formula has been is what made me successful, and every day, and continues, if I have a regular job, is being consistent with my customers. And that continues to pay off, literally. So,
yeah. Looking back at those first baby steps you took versus where you are now, what hurdles did you face that you thought were going to be insurmountable?
I think the fact it was more because I had another job to, quote, fall back on. And I understand, usually when you take that leap, maybe you don't. Maybe you have some capital or, to back you up. me, it was, I didn't have really any startup cost, as maybe most, entrepreneurs would. However, a lot of the hurdles that I faced were, okay, I'm used to everybody there, working at an agency, everybody else has a piece of the pie, so to speak, to help this customer. Now it's 100% on me. How do I manage my time most effectively? What am I willing to do? What am I willing not to do as a result? And I really wanted to set myself apart as you're going to get, I'm always going to look at your, whatever your account is, whatever we're doing, I look at it constantly. So it doesn't matter, you're not paying me more for spending more or less. This is what it is. And I always want you to have control and be transparent with you, and I think that has paid off, because a lot of the hurdles at first was, how am I going to get paid? How can I even rely on this to even look at growing it? Those were, I know in the first 6 to 12 months, that's a lot what I faced, and how do I handle the getting used to paying somebody else in taxes and not having them automatically taken out, and everything like that. So I think that's been the biggest challenge. Everybody's come, oh, you should grow it. You should talk about yourself more. You should do it. And at the time, that wasn't feasible. I needed a dead period from where I was to, after that first year. But yeah, a lot of the hurdles were personal, of trusting that I could do it on my own. Especially, I didn't want to do this. I wanted away from it. And yet here I am going, this is what I know, and I do enjoy it. So,
yeah, I have a few businesses, and usually that forces me to cross paths with other business owners. There's one in particular right now that I'm dealing with, a business owner that has a franchise, let's say, in the Phoenix area. I've seen this owner operate. They've never introduced themselves, but I know who they are. The business is ran so poorly. It blows my mind. There's a heritage brand in Phoenix. And you can walk in any day of the week and no one will look up from their desk to greet you, to say they'll be right with you. None of those things. It's extremely expensive to do business with this brand. And what I think I see is a business owner who's done the same thing day in and day out, whom sold their core business a while back, sat on their hands for a bit, got restless, and ended up diving back into what they are used to. Not what they enjoy, not what they like, but what they're used to. And now here they are running this company, barely running the company. And, they're not struggling because they have a lot of money, but the customer service is lacking. I mean, their attrition rate with their employees is so high. Every time I call down, it's someone new, or an email goes to an inbox that never gets responded to, or it's just someone drops the ball consistently. And it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
And so, I think if you find that passion again, where you're like, you know what, this is what I'm good at. This is what I may not have been passionate about it before, but I think this is just what my life is meant to be. And you harness that and you take responsibility of it, you can do great things.
I agree. And I think that's what has driven me, is the fact of, I had left, I was burned out, but I was more burned out because I felt like I was working for somebody that ethically I couldn't support.
Sure.
And I was, yes, I'm taking money and I'm getting paid very well, and, all of this. And I'm like, at the end of the day, this is not the strategy piece, which I really liked and still enjoy, was not as fulfilling. And so, but as a result of, doing this for almost 4 years, you're exactly right. I mean, even though it's like, okay, I've got to be able to do this, and I'm always thinking, okay, this day of the week, what do I have to do, and so forth. I also make it a point, to your point that you just brought up with that example of, hey, I always want the customer to know, hey, I'm one step ahead, whether it's identifying an issue or, hey, here's my thought, or, you know what, I found this new service. I'm going to research it for you before I bring you in. Is that okay? And becoming an advocate for them. And as a business owner, it's so great because, as we talked about getting started, you don't have somebody advocating for you when you're doing your own business. So it's nice when you can partner with somebody and you don't have to tell them. They just assume that role and they're like, hey, don't waste your time here. I've already checked it out here, or you do need to check this out. This will help your business. So, and I think that constantly is a fuel for me, of finding that, because it feeds into, I like the strategy piece. So no matter what's going on, that's at the central core of why I do what I do.
Yeah. And I've experienced that. So definitely see that in you. Now that you've been doing this for a while, you've owned your own business now for a while, what is the one thing that you think you are an expert at?
I think is evaluating a potential project and being able to say, hey, this is what you do really well. Here is the opportunity to do it better, and this is what I can do to help. Here's the plan that I see, and be able to set specific time parameters. Like, I'm not selling myself as the greatest thing since sliced bread. No, this is your business. I'm here to help you as part of my business and to get, and I'm here to partner with you. And I think that approach, or being personable, relatable, has been my biggest strength.
Yeah. Yeah. All of us that have owned businesses currently or in the past have had moments of complete despair and wanted to throw in the towel. Tell me a moment about that you've experienced personally.
I think there was a client that I had that
Chadwick's Urban Market.
No, not that one. That was great. No, but I remember having a client that I did as a favor, and I thought it was great. And at the same point, realizing when that project went away, it was devastating, because I'm not used to, when a client has left before, whether at a previous agency or even at Facebook, whatever, it's usually because of budget, and I know that they'll come back at some point. But in this particular case, since it was, this is me, this is I look horrible now, my reputation is going to be blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, I had to go, was this a good fit? Right. No, why wasn't it a good fit? Because we couldn't both, or as a collaboratively come together and say, hey, this is the strategy, and everybody has to be all in.
Right.
I'm not going to take your money if you're not all in, which is a different approach, because it's like, give me your money and hey, you're stuck.
Yeah.
No. But initially, yes, that was a huge setback, and I've been very fortunate that hasn't happened very often. But it does also drive it helped me to grow, in the sense of, hey, if somebody needs to put something on pause for now, like Chadwick Urban Market, it was like, yes, this is the right time, because I see the business changing, the business model, in this case, changing to your other businesses, but always knowing okay, that doesn't change the connection that we have. And, right. And I'd rather us leave as business partners, so to speak, because you never know the projects or the people that may cross our way as a result.
That's interesting that you bring that up, because it is definitely what I would call the greatest salesman mantra of owning your own business that a lot of people do not have. I mean, even car dealership sales reps, they're like, buy now, buy now, buy now. And they want you to buy a car or get the heck out of their hair.
Right.
And that isn't necessarily how life works. And I probably have fallen victim to that. I didn't want to disappoint the sales rep, so I just bought the car.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect your business. Sales reps do it all the time. Actually, if I think back to like even Chadwick's with just food reps and beer reps and wine reps, I would want to create that relationship. So I would buy their product and try it out. And because I didn't want to disappoint them. But in reality, there were things that I probably bought that didn't fit the needs of my customer. And then it sat there on the shelf and I ate the cost. Yeah. So, it might not be the time, the place, or the moment to make that transaction, especially when it's in this type of business.
Right.
So just hang on to it and create and build those bridges versus burning them in the sales pitch.
I agree. And I think it's to your point too. I think whether you're dealing with outside vendors to help build the brick and mortar store, or in my case too, it's like, oh yes, I could go out there and want all these people to come in, or, invite, I want all this business. I'm going to grow this business because I'm constantly like friends and family, like, oh, you've done so good. You should, and it's like, no, I'm specific. I'm methodical. Like if it's not a good fit, I'm not relying on it, on the income,
right? Which
is nice. It's a different kind of model. I get that. I don't need it to, make sure that my family is fed, so to speak. But it's been, because of that, taking that pressure off also lets me go back to ethically, is this the right choice? And what I learned the early days at Facebook, when we would tell like affiliate marketers, but I have $10,000 a day to spend. You don't want my money. Doesn't Zuckerberg want my money? Oh yeah, he wants your money. But I want you to keep spending your money, and you won't at what you want to do. And I like that freedom, be able to speak my mind, and be able to back it up as a result.
I totally forgot about affiliate marketing. Can you tell us just a short bit about what it is?
Sure. So the typical affiliate marketer that had a lot of experience with is you would have affiliate marketers selling hawking the next great product, where usually, women's products, like skin cream.
Sure. Yep.
And so they wanted to push this out. And a lot of times, they get kickbacks from other companies, and then they resell or, white label their product to somebody else, an affiliate marketer, and they get a kickback for selling it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you would get. And you would, Facebook saw a lot of that and still continue to,
if you think about a lot of these, like Squatch soap, some other things that I've seen a lot of, where it just seems it's very branded, very brand heavy. They try to communicate this idea of what it is to buy their product. You see a lot of people liking it. You see a lot of people sharing it. And it's because they've just dumped a crap load of money into this marketing campaign. And then you get the product. Oh, my favorite one right now is Asset.
Oh,
yeah. It's cream for your butthole.
Yeah.
And the marketing is totally on point. And, who has thought about that? Like,
right.
How wrinkly is my butthole? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't even see back there. So, but, they had me thinking about it after they started their advertising. And I'm like, maybe I need that. But that would be an affiliate marketing type of thing. And they only have like one product. That's all they have. Yes,
that's all they have. And yeah. And so they're just looking to turn it, make, strike that, while the market is hot, so to speak, come with the next great idea, let it pan out, and then they'll move on to something else. Well, that's not the kind of marketing you want to do. Like I say, it's like, okay, you want something established that you can grow and move on. Maybe you do pivot to something else, but it's built on top of this. And affiliate marketing, my experience has been, it's turn it and burn it, get the most, make the dash for cash and leave. So,
Yep. Okay. So this is where we kind of change gears in the show. This is going to be the topic of the day, which is social media marketing. So the first question, why is it so important for a business today?
Well, I think it gives your company a voice. in the marketplace. There's only so much organic reach that you can get. You mentioned earlier the algorithms, depending on the platform, they change every day and so forth. And with the invention of AI and, adapt, all of that. And so it's important, though, I believe that digital marketing, social media marketing specifically, has its place in order to keep you at top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you said, mentioning with different businesses, it's like, hey, if I didn't think I needed that, do I need that? Or the background for me with car dealerships, I get a dealer who wants to, I want to run all this stuff for service, for example, and I'm thinking, just from personal experience, usually I need service when something all of a sudden happens, on a highway, whether it's a tire or whatever. And so it's being able to say, hey, yes, but let's be strategic with this and how we do it. And I wanted to complement what you're already doing, so that, because the reason I think, something I always say is social media marketing is your digital store window to see what is actually inside your product, your service, your actual storefront, so that it mirrors, and I'm not trying to be a pun, but it literally should mirror what you are all about. I don't want to just throw, fancy glitter and roo-rah, all that, but I want it to be a reflection of what you're about. So people clearly know, hey, if I come here, I should expect this, this, and this. Doesn't mean they're going to always be satisfied, but I think that's why it helps to set you apart from everybody else that maybe doesn't have the same focus.
Yeah, and I think it definitely gives you a kind of what you were saying is it gives you your customer base an idea of who you are before they even step foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a direct brand link. If they step foot into, let's just take Chadwick's, for example, a store I used to own in Scottsdale. I could publish what I wanted Chadwick's to be online, and that's its brand. They could step foot into the store and it could be a completely different experience because I either missed the mark or my staff alone can make that experience feel different. And so I do think that it helps solidify what you are. They can look back in time and history, like Instagram. I always think about that.
Right.
There's certain businesses, and I've had other friends that own small businesses. They'll go in and they'll delete some of their posts out. I've never done that. I think that it is a catalog of who we are, what we've done to show people like we've grown and this is where we're heading towards.
I think that's a good point. And I mean, that's a side benefit too of whether marketing or just having your content out there, is you can look back historically and go, hey, have I really matched what I wanted to do? Even if it's I'm posting every time, every week, or similar every month of what we're doing. Is it consistent? Is it, do I change it up? Do I give a different angle? I like to say it's a 360 look.
Yeah.
Is always this approach. I always like to take a look. What does it look like today? What does it look like tomorrow? What will it look in the future? How does that, grow my brand?
It tells your story.
Right. Exactly.
How many stores that exist today, Bass Pro Shops, Airstream, all of these brands that have been around for so long, they're beginning history almost lost to time, that they've had to go around and try to recollect. John Deere, recollect it to tell their story, and how lucky we are to have all of this stuff captured in one place. And so I think it's a bad move to remove or delete your older posts, because it tells that story. I think it really.
Yes, because I think that the thing is, if you break up with somebody or you're a sports hero and you leave that team and all of a sudden you remove you scrub which is so weird to me. I get it in a way, but that is definitely something I don't recommend, just for that fact of like, hey, this was us. And you never know too, as you bring in, as your business grows and you bring somebody else in, it gives them an idea of what you were. And if they've really done their homework, and you're interviewing to bring them on, for example, you get an idea really quickly, well, what do you think of our business? Oh, it's great. It's, not just what they just saw that you posted last week,
Right.
but maybe it is years ago. Hey, you know what? This is really cool. I didn't even know how you guys started. I saw this post, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly the kind of conversation starter I want with a potential customer coming, taking advantage of my service or, consulting with them, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, for sure. Before I go on, something that you mentioned was AI. And I've really been thinking about this a lot lately because there's a lot of website builders that have AI generators in them now. All these things. Google, for example, indexes your website based off of the content that you have written. Just quickly, do you think in the future Google's algorithm will change to discount AI written content?
Oh, that's a good question. I definitely think if it's to Google's advantage, they will, just with the monopoly that they've had in the search arena, so to speak. So yeah, I do think, because they want you to think, oh, our product is still the best. That being said, I definitely think though that AI has its place. I'm still figuring that out.
Do you think they'll become competitive in the sense of, after you just said that, it made me think of like, right now we hire the best content writers for those things. If it's not ourselves, it's somebody else, right? Maybe Google discounts other companies' AI while lifting up their own. I wonder if that's what happens.
I think so. And I've even noticed, even with Meta, that they want you, hey, you need to put that. They've started asking for that classification. Hey, did you use AI for this? And some of that is because they're, it's a two-edged sword with AI. I've already seen it as I learned to adapt to it and how to grow along with it. And so it's, I wonder about that too. Are you setting it up as a way to
generate more money
and also put, you get to, it's just another factor in the algorithm. I don't have to, if you're just totally 100% using AI.
Yeah.
So
makes me wonder.
Yeah.
What makes social media marketing different than other forms of marketing, like print marketing, billboard marketing, TV marketing?
I think there's always been this, I don't know if it's a stigma is correct. I know in the early days it was, when we got started with Facebook, when we were just trying to get Facebook on the map, so to speak. It was like, social media, and again, just as I've discussed earlier, I was like, with social media myself. But I think that the place that it has, and I talked a little bit earlier about the 360 look, I think it can definitely be the voice to everything else that you do. I like to use this example too of here in town. There's one of the dealers who's one of the largest in the state, and this agency I worked at, I had to put up to a proposal for them, and it was print, it was email, it was search, it was paid search, and even doing social, of course. And so put all this together, and I'm thinking, how best to put this together? And it was like, how do I sell it? But how do I tell the same message everywhere? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm not gonna open this email. That's going right in the junk folder. Oh, I'm gonna get a mailer. I'm gonna throw it away. Well, months later, sure enough, I get an email to my personal email because it's now gone out. They're putting everything marketing into place. I'm like, okay, that's cute. Throw it away, or hit delete. Get it in the mail, and I'm like, what? wait a minute. All right. And then throw it away, just like I thought I would. But then I started seeing it on social media, a little bit different look, a video, showing, what they do in the community, so forth. And it starts to strike me like, okay, I know on social media we've learned, and I still think this holds true. Typically it takes 3 to 4 times before someone takes an action with it. And
when you say that, you mean it takes 3 or 4 times for it to be presented to an individual?
Correct.
Before they click a button?
Correct. Like so you may say, oh, why did I get served this? And then, maybe even talking with your buddy and friends, we always laugh about that, but it does
listening all the time.
All the time. Yeah. So, it's like 3 to 4 times before you take a specific action. You may think, oh, I made this on my own. Well, you did, but the idea is like that repetitiveness. And that's where I talk about that 360 look came really into focus. This has just been for me in the last 5-6 years of seeing why it's so important. So now even if, let's say I work with a dealer and they want to do they're going to send out a big mailer and email blast. It's like, okay, give me that creative that you're doing. Let me adapt it. Let me put a different twist on it.
Right.
So we can complement when it goes out to this list or as we're looking to target, and just increases the likelihood of them taking an action. So, yeah.
When we talk about analytics, how far can you track? We just talked about an ad being served to an individual multiple times. How far can you track those analytics? Can you track somebody clicking on that ad all the way to converting them to a sale? Where does that end? Where does it, how far does it go?
So as far as specifically with Meta, it goes back up to 90 days. It'll continue to track after an ad ends up to another additional 28 days based on if you've, the tools that you've put on your website from, I know there's a big debate with the pixel and privacy and so forth. But that's a lot of it. And, it's a little different too of what I always present to a client is, what was the last ad they saw before they took an action? And
it was the butthole cream.
There. Okay, there we go. And, and so it's because then I get this oh, you're saying that you sold the car, not my salesperson. Absolutely not. Even though there might be some more credibility with that. However, my goal, part of my strategy is always, rule of thumb, and maybe we'll get to this. So I'm not trying to go forward with the questions, but a strategy I always have is I always like to be within one click, to your point with the analytics, meaning one click to getting
a shopping cart.
Yeah. Yes. And, I want you to be the next step after because you're going to take that action.
Right.
Whether it's maybe you're not going to call a dealership, maybe you're going to go in or you're going to buy that next great widget or butt cream, whatever it is, you're right there because I don't want it to take you somewhere else that I didn't intend.
And to overshare a story arc. You know what I mean? Sometimes you get so far down that story arc where it's you lose them.
Correct. And so that's what so even though, yes, there's a definitive period of quote, being able to track, what's nice then is, something I have developed is just looking at, whether it's on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, year over year basis, something we normally would recommend as part of a good business practice regardless.
Yeah.
What it does is the more history we get, you start seeing more consistent numbers, and we start, instead of seeing things arc way up at the summit and then they never get back there again. It's okay. How do we make adjustments and tweaks? And we come up with based on these analytics. Start with this baseline. How do we control it even with changes?
Yeah, massage it to make it more affordable, wider reach, kind of all those things.
Right.
Something you said about the car dealer salesman selling the car over your ads. I don't remember the last time I was sold. I bought a lot of cars.
Yes.
And I don't remember the last time I've been sold a car by a salesman. I mean, usually they're just in the way. And they usually create a less than desirable experience, especially when you're getting into a car. I don't know if you had this happen, but you get into a car and they know nothing about it. They don't know what the buttons do.
Yeah.
They don't know any of the menus. And they're like, well, we just got these electric cars in Kia, for example. Like, how did you not sit down and go through a training? How did they not send you home with one of these for 3 days to experience it yourself? I mean, are we selling cars here?
Right.
Or are we not?
And if you think about it, just as people, how we are, whether it's men talking to men or women talking to women, no matter what, relatable subjects, you want all the facts. And if you're a hunter and you're, I expect you to tell me like, and I'm may not be, but for you to tell me, yeah, I got this new rifle and it does this and that, but and the scope on it, like if I change it 1 degree, I may have a deer in the headlight look, but all of a sudden I've got new respect. Like you're not just a hunter, you really trust what you're doing. And so to your point too, with the car, that is a huge turnoff. I think the best part of the vehicle is like, show me something I don't know, because 9 times out of 10, I already know what I want.
Yeah. And it's like, why are you here? Just in case I steal it?
Yeah. Right.
Why are you on this ride along? I don't understand those things. But so if you own a car dealership or you want to own a car dealership, really, really train your salespeople or don't have them at all.
Exactly.
You might as well have iPads on kiosks.
Exactly. Or the biggest trend that I'm seeing is now they have these technology experts. I've gotten that.
Just,
that's their job. Oh, if you buy it, when I bring it up front and, the kid out back has detailed it for you. Oh, this other kid will walk you through everything.
But that's where I have the problem too. I'm buying a car. I want to know all of its features. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get in with the kid that's setting stuff up only to find that the car doesn't do the one thing I want it to do.
Exactly.
So that's interesting to me, but that's a whole different topic for another day.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur just starting out. Advertising on Facebook. What top three things should I do?
I think having your social media set up to reflect your website, accurately, so that when they find you, because if I'm searching for a service, or product, and it comes up, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to go look. Hey,
how credible are they?
Yeah, how credible, right? And the same thing, if I find you on social media, even if I have a friend who says, "Hey, you should check this out. Check them out," because that referral is so powerful. But still, I'm going to do my homework, because then it's like, okay, it was great that I cut through the chase with Chad. I'll just use your name, anyways. But I want it to be my experience.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to be able to pump my chest and go, hey, I found this great thing. And so I think that's important too. So again, that coming back to that consistent message, I think is number one. Number two is having a plan, of, what are we going to be about? What is our voice? Is it, are we funny? Do we make fun of ourselves? Do we, how do we have a plan in place initially, a playbook of what happens if something does go wrong or something happens or we get a bad review? What do we do? Besides, can't please everybody. How do I use that to my benefit?
Yeah. I think always spinning that into a positive, whatever way you can, is important. And you have to remember, other folks that are reading your reviews, when they read the response, they need to go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. And that's something I told, as far as reviews goes, because I've worked in that side of it too, for another company, but it's, making sure you don't have to put everything. I think that the typical human response is, you said that I was ugly. Well, I'm going to tell you how ugly you were to me first. No, just because it's social media, you have to keep that professional, as much as it may kill you.
Yeah, it's not a debate.
No, and it's like, hey, I sent you, hey, I sent a DM to further discuss this. But at the same time, somebody takes the time to give you a really positive one. You know what? Thank you, Ed, for taking the time to leave this positive review about that we did this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. I had that beef a few weeks ago with my wife, went out for a steak dinner, and it wasn't, the steak was, I had a coupon, so I was being cheap, but I knew what I was going to get, but it was because I had the coupon. I was like, hey, let's go, wife. Well, the waitress helped me to apply the coupon in a different way because we were having troubles. Mm-hmm. And instead of walking away, she helped me. She went the extra level. So, maybe she got a better tip. But then I was like, when I was prompted to leave a review, I was able to say, something I appreciate was the attention to detail to help me, because you got me in with the coupon, mm-hmm. but not only was my experience made better because of it, but my end experience when I had to pay for it, because there was a problem and I missed a step, but your waitress did not.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I used to do a lot of when I would go out to eat. I'd ask after we were done eating, I'd ask the waiter for the manager. Mm-hmm. And of course their face would be like, oh, what did I do? Yeah. And the manager would come over and I'd just tell them. And it didn't matter if it was just okay service, it was great service, mm-hmm. right? If it was bad, I wasn't calling the manager over. But if it was okay, it was great. So the manager would come over and just tell me, look, Alyssa, was a great waitress. She went above and beyond. We really have never had service like that before. We know typically people don't tell you how good they are. So we just want to take a moment to let you know. And you would not imagine how many managers would be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. We usually don't hear those things. And it really went a long way just taking that moment to do that in the restaurant industry. So if you do get a chance to do something like that, above and beyond a nice tip, hearing that is really
you important. Don't know. I mean, and it's a good rule of thumb in personal life, because we get so, the temptation is always to look at be the pessimist, the glass is half full. And you never know, that may change that person's day, their life, their direction. Mm-hmm. But definitely as a business owner, understanding, it's not just the mighty dollar. If I want another dollar, I have to learn how to balance the business, and how do I communicate in my plan when things go great, when they don't. Yeah. And it's almost the same approach I have found. So
you said that the first one was making sure you have a good strategy for your page itself, the content that you're delivering, the voice that you're using.
And second is just having a plan, a playbook, plan of action. What do I do on when in executing this? Do I change that up?
And that could be two sides, right? A playbook for the Facebook page and a playbook for the ad.
Correct. Things, right? Oh, yes, definitely. I want them to complement each other, but I do want them to be different, because there's a time and place when I do something, that I'll recommend, hey, let's promote this, what we've already got on here, because we want to get extra, this video is really cool. You took, this is really, really good. And we could run it as a regular ad, so it's not on your page, but I think this is going to be really good from a historical standpoint. Let's test it out. Yes, it is important to have a different knowing when,
right?
When to do it, when not to do it, because the temptation is, oh, well, let's see if I promoted, if I put $50, what would that do for me, Ed? You'll get a little bit of a bump. And it's the same approach I take too when somebody says, oh, I've got $1,500. Let's throw some money at this and do it. And then they're like, what do you recommend? And I'll say 500. Well, why 500? Well, because I don't want you to have a huge drop off next month from a paid side, because we did 1,500. We can always ramp up. We see it's successful. Great. Better to do that than to throw all this money and then have nothing to show for it in the following months. I want to build something that's consistent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll peak because we're putting more money, but it's not going to kill you from a, production later. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I hear you saying as well is that the strategy for advertising too is that you really need to understand what your goals are, right? Like you said, making sure that it's one click away.
Yep.
And what is that click, right? Like when we first started out, the biggest thing was, it was really hard to drive people to an action outside of Facebook.
Right.
They wanted you to build up an audience. So your fan base
build those likes,
build the likes, right? I don't know much anymore if that's really a goal. I mean, yeah, you want more likes because you can get more organic view, placement in front of people that already like you based on your posts. But anymore, I think Facebook is pay for play.
It is. And I think it's too is like Facebook will still, one of their pillars is about branding. And I agree with it. And then I've learned over the years, I disagree with it because they want you to promote constantly and keep them on the platform. Whereas even if I put a link in there, I'm keeping them on the platform, or I do an ad, they're still within Meta, but they're, checking out, now I see like, with Meta, you can buy stuff through the Facebook shop with a vendor. And it's actually been pretty cool because I've noticed like I'm getting stuff faster than if I went to that person, went to that company's website, for example. But that's where I say like I have branding with a purpose, I call it.
Yeah.
Meaning back to that one click, I want you to take an action. If there's an event coming up and we can have them sign up or look at it, great. We're promoting your brand this way. Or if it's we're having this special, the car dealers are really good for this. Your e-commerce or your department stores, whatever. Oh, we're having this extravaganza, over the weekend. Let's promote it. I want to drive you to, hey, check this out. Check out the specials now before you come. Get ready for it. Oh, it's here. Should already be ready. Kind
of that story arc we were talking about.
Exactly. And you build that momentum and accordingly. But if it's just like, oh, I'm just throwing an ad up there. Well, why didn't I get results? Because you put it up there just like in it. And I think it's what you said earlier about, versus print. It definitely, print has its place still today. It's not as much, but I think that the place is like, if I just do a flyer, like I was using my example earlier, most of the time we're throwing it out, but
you can't track that,
and you can't track it exactly. And so it's still, social media is still the cheapest form of getting the word out. And so recognizing that accordingly, so when you come to me and say, oh, I didn't get the results that I want. Well, let's look at this. You mean you reached 200,000 people and you only spent $50? How much did you spend on the mailer? 7,000?
Right.
I actually have a client that I started with it's been 4 years, and it was because of that. Oh, I don't believe in digital marketing. And he's a good friend and so forth. And I was like, okay, hey. And then I was like, wow. And now we've proven year over year, as his business has gotten bigger, this has had a huge role. It's not the only role.
Right.
No, but it's a powerful piece. Because it's a voice. A piece of paper doesn't have that play. Whereas I'm telling a story that everybody else is seeing, and it stood out enough to, wait a minute, let me take another look. So
we were just talking about brand strategy on Facebook or other social media platforms. One little bit of advice, I think, which would probably be the third pillar, and I think you were kind of diving into it without delineating that third thing, is just something that was very basic when we were both at Facebook. And that's really where I wanted to hit for our listeners or our viewers, because I think a lot of these folks are just starting out. And I think you would agree, A/B testing is so important. And for those that don't know what that is, if you create 2 ads, and you're gonna have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna say it because I feel like it's kind of nostalgic for me.
Right on.
Digging back into what I used to know. So A/B testing, you have the same ad copy, for example. So the same words, you have the same target audience that you've chosen, but you choose 2 different photos.
Right.
Maybe you have those 2. Then you have the same 2 photos, different ad copy on both of them, same audience. You run those 4 ads for the same period of time. One of those ads will outpace the rest. And what that does for you as an advertiser is it decreases the cost per view, the cost per click, and eventually it gets shown to a lot more people than your other ads would. How do you do?
Very good. I mean, I think like when we were going through with training with Facebook, they would always use this thing about umbrellas. And it was like, you sell umbrellas and you have 5 different colors of umbrellas. Let's see which one works best. And exactly like, oh, the black one or the red one, the yellow one. And the only differentiator is that image of that particular color. And this is in the early days. The biggest thing was as the platform optimizes those ads, then you learn, okay, let's finish the month with the top 2. And that's something I developed a strategy to. Now the algorithm has gotten really good. So if you know then what works, I think A/B testing is really good. But it after you have some history to rely on and you know what works, don't just do it out of habit either, but it be intentional with the fact of, hey, I don't have to build 5 million ads anymore.
Right.
The system will automatically optimize the one that's getting the best, but always have something ready to go as well. So I always say like 2 to 3 ads now. And here's why. Usually like in a month's period, the normal ebb and flow, and people are more active on this day than this day. And the weekend can be, who knows? And depending what's going on, or holidays, it still holds true. It's held true everybody is on or nobody's off. Everybody's off. The point being, then it helps you come up with what your own rhythm, and I think that's what's been nice in my role, or in having this, that I have the flexibility. Hey, I start off with what I know, what I've seen, but then I tailor make it to each customer, which they then appreciate.
Right.
There's going to be the same consistency. I'm telling them the same message. The idea is we can tweak this, but we also don't have to have so much creative or put all that expense to it. We can start, once we see something that works, we just tweak it a little bit or change the voice. Again, that 360 look. And I see like what usually happens if an ad starts to like fall off in production, you bring another one in. That one is either going to take off, or suddenly, it's like this, the one that was getting you the best numbers, the best results, picks right back up to finish your campaign.
Okay.
And I still find that to be true.
That's interesting. So yeah, things have changed a little bit since, I was deep into it.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking about that. I didn't really finish out what that idea was, because it used to be, you had those 4 ads running and you would delete the 3 that were doing poorly. Right. You dump your budget into the one and run with that until your ad spend was out. So it sounds like it's a little bit, the new optimized version is a little bit more intuitive.
Yes. I mean,
kind of play with it a little bit more than what.
Right. When we first started too, the program we had with new advertisers was like a 30-day thing, but we would always say is like, hey, you're just starting new. It's going to take a good, we still recommend you in 90 days to really to get some history, knowing month over month. Oh, but it takes like 45 days for your ad account. But now, usually within 2 weeks, pretty much know what is going to work. The algorithm has become more advanced and in tune. So if you're doing best practices, like you had referred to earlier, and I do think it's the third pillar, knowing what your objectives are. Am I trying to drive view contents, meaning for those umbrellas or the Kias on the lot, or or maybe I am for service. It wouldn't be a view content, but I want to drive landing page views because I want it to register that they were on there looking at my service specials, for example. Or maybe I don't have any tracking on there. And so it would be, I'm just looking for link clicks. Because it's a good indicator. What was the last action they took from my ad that I can track? Oh, they clicked on my ad. They went to my website. Oh, wow. Okay.
And you could probably compare that to a bounce rate on your website too.
Correct.
How long were they on my landing page?
Exactly. And two is that's another, evolution that's come about too with Google and so forth. We've always learned that Google and Facebook don't always play nice. And, I could get really deep in the woods with, hey, what are you looking for in comparisons with your web traffic in Google versus, your Facebook. But it is relative to your point. Like, okay, what is really working, effectively? But I was asked that recently about, well, what do you look at for analytics? What do you look for KPIs? And well, here's my baseline. But then it comes back to, what am I really looking for? Because that changes the formula, right? Do I put more, if I'm looking at reach as one of the key KPIs, well, and I'm looking at clicks.
What is a KPI?
It's key performance indicators.
Got it.
Sorry. Yeah. So what are important to me? What are key takeaways, as they say in the, like from a sports aspect? what do I take away or whatever? And again, it comes down to what was the intended result, of it, because then I put it in proper, for example, if I'm driving link clicks, I could see a huge reach because all I'm trying to do is get you to my website.
Right.
Versus a view content. If I've done it well, it's going to be more in line my reach with what the cost of it was. But then I don't have to, it's then that reach becomes more of, okay, I know I have this low cost. Maybe I need to up my budget because I'm not seeing this volatility anymore to bring it down. I'm seeing that consistency. Do I want to reach more people? Do I have the sales team? Do I have the product? It all goes into that.
Yeah. And which is interesting because you can eventually use those numbers to calculate out your cost per acquisition.
Exactly.
Right. Like your overall spend versus your converted sales. How much did each one of those sales cost you to attain through Facebook? If you say that you get so many conversions to your website and then so many conversions to sales on your website, you can track that all the way through to a sale once they get to your page too. So yeah, it's very interesting, I think, on that side. Are there any don'ts that somebody just starting out should do? I think you kind of glossed over one of them about just dumping a boatload of money into it, not knowing what you're doing.
I think not biting off more than you can chew, meaning you might have all these ideas and all the, you want to highlight everything that you are about. I have 20 different types of umbrellas here. I want to highlight I want to do their own campaign. Here's the problem. Something to keep in mind when you set up these campaigns, you want to make sure you're not competing against yourself. Mm-hmm. So if I have a blue campaign, a yellow campaign, and a red campaign, and I'm targeting the same area, I'm kind of being a cannibal and, in competing. Now, there are times that I don't think that's an issue.
Especially if each one of those products have their own story arcs.
Correct.
Because that's what I think we really kind of focused on or hit home on was it's gone away from like this image in front of your face. It's this whole story behind the product and the brand. And it'd be like going to a movie theater and watching 6 movies at once. It's just too overwhelming for the consumer to even focus on one of them and understand truly what you're trying to sell. Is that
exactly? It's that back to that thing of it takes 3 to 4 times for someone to taken action, usually on your ad or whatever the marketing piece is. But to that point, if I'm seeing six different versions of your movie at once, I can't follow that. I might even be able to follow two. Sometimes it's one, depending on the movie. But you're exactly right with that point. Is it is different if there is a different arc, as you said, and so and you adapt it, being willing to adapt depending on what your product, your service, your vertical is. Automotive, I will tell somebody getting started, hey, let's promote your new, because you got a lot of incentives that are going out there. Maybe we do something with your service, and then we want to retarget. So people go on your website, they come back. I want them to see that car that they just looked at. That's how we get started. Well, then you can build out. You can always add to it, but that's a good example to what you're saying is, hey, yes, there's multiple campaigns that I'm targeting multiple people. I may have different audiences, but it's still the same geo. What am I doing? Am I hurting myself? No, you're actually providing a different service now.
Is it telling the story more fully?
Yes.
Is it complementing the narrative?
Correct. And I think in like the auto field, just to your point, like the auto world is, we pretty much know what to expect when we go in. We're probably not going to like the finance person. Just that experience. Like I said, it takes too long, etc. But service keeps or lose keeps a customer or loses a customer. Mm-hmm. That service lane, and it's also the most it's the most profitable.
Yeah.
But it's also the most undervalued. And so, how do you tell that piece of the story? And I think that's what you learn. Regardless of what you do. Maybe you make cookies. Like what do you do? What is the best part of your cookies? Because everybody makes cookies, or everybody makes t-shirts. What sets you apart, and how do I tell that story? And how can I tell that same story, but make it relevant different ways? And then you decide, do I need multiple campaigns to tell this? Maybe I'm using my A/B testing to test out, back to that, maybe I'm talking about the umbrella, but I'm also talking, you get free cookies with every purchase now. Well, now, depending on which ad I see, that message comes through. And now what happened? Oh, now I have a whole new marketing strategy.
Right.
I'm adding something extra to so.
Yeah. And I totally get that. And it's something that we haven't worked with each other for quite some time since Chadwick's. But like we were talking about before, in attaining those business relationships and kind of have them waiting in the wings for when you truly need them. A new company that we've started a year ago, renting out RV equipment. They were just RVs to begin with, and now we're expanding to other outdoor adventure equipment products. We're going to definitely need to get back together again, because all of those pieces are add-on products to tell a more well-rounded story about what we are and what we can offer you. A good example for me when it comes to marketing stuff is we took on another RV that's owned by a friend of ours, and I wanted to go out camping with it because that's what I usually always do. Is I go out, I get photos, I really digest how the thing operates, because people nevertheless get out there and they don't remember how the TV turns on or things like that. So, a big piece of that for me is the photo part. And I told them, I said, we took photos in our driveway. I uploaded them. Dead. No interest. It's been months. And I said, we have to get out there and get photos in the wilderness somewhere. Because when people look at those pictures, they don't want to go camping in your driveway. Right. They don't see themselves there. They don't see the setup. They don't see the woods. It doesn't call them that, in Arizona, a lot of you might not know this if you don't live here, but in the summertime, any photo that has tall pine trees and a campfire calls our souls back to the mountains,
Right.
which is northern Arizona, because we just want to get out of the heat. And there's something about seeing that just, it's a call to action. It's telling you, rent me, rent me, rent me. Go out, experience Arizona wilderness, be part of Mother Nature.
Selling the lifestyle and what it looks like, but it's just like real estate, selling a house. If you see a house and it's in its normal living, which is its natural habitat, right?
But you're talking about like being staged versus
being
not
staged. It's the same thing, and it's and I see that all the time too. Speaking of RV, because I do have an RV client in Florida. And
that could be dangerous.
And that's exactly. And that's the thing that we have come to is their CEO. He does a great thing of making fun of himself. And I always think it's it would be cheesy, but it's not. But then we balance it out with, hey, it's, we'll do a weekly, a post, and it's somebody, and it's not necessarily, it's just stock that we have on hand or whatever the case may be. And it may just show somebody at a campfire. Well, then Florida right now is humid, and just like it's hot here, it's so humid there, but it's there by a lake, and they're on their laptop, and it's like, hey, you should check out the RVs at this place. And then it'll show what their weekly specials are, instead of just showing weekly specials. Right. And it's being able to tell that show that lifestyle. Well, oh, I would love to be at a lake. They're crazy. Why are they at a laptop? I'd just be at the lake. Oh, come on. We're creatures of habit. So yes, how do I, you're exactly right. How do I tell that story? And I love that. It's because somebody, especially like an RV, which is usually, they say, is the second, most expensive purchase you'll make next to your house.
Yeah.
It's how could I really see myself in it? Would I really use it?
Probably not. That's why you should rent one.
Should rent. Yeah.
At least figure out if you want it first. I think
I agree. I really, and I think that's the thing is having that as an option now is another adaptation in the marketplace, and offering the service, even, a Turo versus, a rental counter, and knowing what are my true options? When do I, what is my best one? And, and they're making that. So I definitely think that, you're in the right direction.
Something that you had said was about stock photo that you had. I think that's probably the fourth do. If you're just starting out, it's really hard to capture content constantly. I mean, as a business owner, that has been my biggest struggle. And like right now, you'll probably notice if you follow our farm page, we haven't posted anything for quite some time. The last thing was last week when I was in Dubuque, Iowa, touring the John Deere factory. And it's because it's hot here. Like nothing changes over the summer. It's just survival mode. So, the plants don't look that great. The animals are all lounging during the day, more active at night. And so for me, it's always like summer is this big lull, and then it kind of picks back up in the fall, winter, spring. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just constantly be taking pictures and video, and you never know what could be usable further down the road on a lull period.
It's always good to have a library, to your point with that. But there's also something that I've noticed is like, back to the auto world, I'm seeing already pictures of a Jeep in the snow, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm like, I'm in Arizona, of course, but I even would guess that someone in Ohio or Iowa would be going, what the heck? I'm not ready for that yet.
Oh yeah.
Not at all.
But for us, because it's hot out, we're like, oh God, take me to the snow.
But then I start to look at it differently and go, hey, what would be cool right now? Getting away.
Yeah, right.
And you can spin it. And so it's like, sometimes it's like, yes, because it's like that author trying to write a new book and come up with a new theme. It's like, nothing's coming. Oh, it's the same heat every day. And it's why the weather people on the news, oh, get ready when there's monsoon action. We call it a monsoon because we get rain for a short period of time. And they try to make a bigger deal out of it than it is. But it's always like, you don't have to constantly reinvent, but have something in your back pocket. I think that is a great strategy as well. And it always helps too with having that may spur you on to, hey, how, if I'm doing a marketing campaign, then how can I, move that into that, as well.
Yeah.
So
for sure. We don't have much time left, and this could be a topic that goes on forever. Let's talk a moment for our folks listening and watching about budget. I think for me, it's a hard pill to swallow. Mm-hmm. And the reason being is it always feels like this well that I cannot see the bottom of. And I feel like I'm just shuckling cash, out, not really understanding what I'm doing. And maybe that goes back to the beginning where we talked about having a strategy. And if I had a strategy, maybe I would have a goal and I'd know that I was reaching those goals. But again, like for our farm page, we don't sell anything. We have Airbnbs here, but we are booked up 99% of the year because we are such a unique situation here. And so for us to advertise it, I don't know what that would do for us. Because for me, it's either I lower the price until it's booked, and that is my strategy, mm-hmm. or I take that money and I spend it on advertising, trying to get the price, the top tier price that I want for it. Either way, those dollars are being lost.
And in that case, what I would just as my mindset with that would be not to have you spend money on an ad campaign, but highlight the fact that, hey, we're booking fast. We only have so much time. And maybe I do throw some dollars at that, but it's an easier pill, so to speak. Why? Because now it's back to that branding with a purpose. I still want you to come take a look, see if there's space available for you. Mm-hmm. Come check it out. And instead now I'm promoting my brand again. I'm keeping it top of mind. But I might
drive more interest. That might drive a higher price. That's kind of what I've always thought.
It's a similar piece with Chadwick's. We knew, we had a consistent smaller budget every month. And it wasn't, and me managing it was smaller as a result. There wasn't a lot to it. We wanted to show it was a specials page. We did have a social, the content mm-hmm. to promote when an event was going to go on or whatever the case or whatever cause you were talking about or you guys were about as well. And that was a better use of money. But then it was more like, okay, let's be strategic when we spend. And I think that's a valuable point is knowing when, hey, do I need a constant flow going? I do, but what does that look like? And then I think that's where it's knowing you're back to that playbook and your strategy of organic. How do I promote my organic?
Right.
And it may be paid and I'm not doing any other regular quote paid. How do I promote what I'm about? When do I do it? How am I strategic with it? Etc. So,
yeah, for our farm stuff, we started paying a little bit last year to try to boost our audience level. The results were interesting, and it'd be interesting to share those with you at some point. But like, there was one video that I think got 700 and something thousand views. And it wasn't one that I had expected, but as we continued to boost certain things, that one just all of a sudden took off. And then mm-hmm. the one video that I thought was super funny, didn't do hardly anything. It got a lot of reaction out of people, but I thought it would take off. But,
yeah.
And it still could. Like, that's the thing about not deleting things either. Like, all of a sudden it could just come around where somebody finds it that has a very large audience, likes it or shares it, and then off it goes again.
I know exactly what you mean. And it then tends to, when you do something like that, all of a sudden you may go, oh, wow, maybe I do need to put money towards this. I was just doing this to post content, be regular. Like, well, now I do. I have that with an HVAC client, and they decided it's like third generation, and the owner's wife decided to go along with her son on an install. She got more hits on the video they did of her than him. And he had done a video, and he's very funny, engaging, and so forth, and he done real well. But his mom so now it starts this little friendly competition. But then what it bred is like, hey, you know what? It's obvious we need to be promoting what you guys are about. Try to get you. You're a family-owned business. You're not going to compete with the larger big boys here in town, but you've got your own niche, and you do very well. Let's promote that social content, because your competitors are not.
Right.
So that's led into a different, it doesn't, yes, they're paying for that, but they're not paying me anymore for that. So
it's just changing the strategy.
It just changes the strategy, and it gives us something. So when we hopefully, knock on wood, cool off, that in their business, their services are maybe not as in demand anymore. It's more about maintenance then. They can still, with their content, we stay top of mind, because, come back after the holidays, here we go again. We're going to build right back up. So yeah, you're exactly right with that. Cool.
Great. Well, that's really all the questions I have today.
Awesome.
I really, really want to thank you for joining us, recording a podcast episode about social media marketing. What is the name of your business? I forgot to ask you that right off the bat.
Oh, it's called Core Marketing, KEOR marketing. And yeah, something that I like to do with that, just as we've had this conversation, is it never costs to take a look and get an opinion. I'm in business, you're in business. We're talking as friends, and who knows, the way I look at it, it's meant to be in the future. It will be.
Yeah. Something I talk about a lot is I only do business with people that I feel like I have a symbiotic relationship with. And it takes a special business owner that actually has the capability of doing that. And I think Ed has that. So if you are looking for social media help, expertise, where can they find you at, Ed?
Well, they can get back in touch with you. That would be great. I do have a different website that we're working on. That's soon to be a different iteration, but you can always reach me via email. It's long though. It's we'll post it on our website under this episode.
And then our website is everyturnpodcast.com. Again, it's everyturnpodcast.com. So yeah, just reach out to us or check out the information below in the YouTube channel, and you can get a hold of Ed.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And just like that, this episode of the Every Turn Podcast is complete. I'd like to thank my guest for visiting with me on this episode, and to you, our listeners. Let's meet back here next week and discover the next turn. If you enjoy our content, please subscribe to our channel on your favorite podcast provider. Until next time, I'm Chad Chase.